The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the show. It's Martin Luther King Day. Lewis, it's always fascinating to remember all of the politicians who opposed Martin Luther King Day being a holiday, who now pretend to have been on the right side of history all along and to have, of course, have supported Martin Luther King. I'm always fascinated by it for sure.
The best is people who compare themselves to him who are the exact opposite in
Right.
an attempt to appease, I don't know, the black community or something.
And who has done that? I mean, everybody from Glenn Beck
Rush
to
Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. I mean, so many people do compare themselves to Martin Luther King. Yeah, it is incredible.
Usually people who are horrible human beings.
Very, very, very often. Haley Barbour, the former governor of Mississippi, has pardoned a whole bunch of people. And I was just thinking to myself, imagine if Mississippi, or rather, imagine if it had been a Democratic governor who pardoned all of these people, including some murderers. It would really be incredible. The outrage would be unbelievable.
It would be unquellable.
It really would. Yeah,
Yeah.
It would be amazing. And he issued only 8 pardons in his first 7 years. And then Haley Barbour pardoned 208 convicts, 41 of them murders, sex offenders, or child molesters during his last 48 hours in office. And Barbour noted that 90% of the people he pardoned were already out of prison. But 4 murderers were released. And by expunging the records of the people that were already out of jail, he allows them to legally buy guns. He allows the sex offenders to no longer have to give their names to the sex offender registry when they move somewhere. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. It's not just, 90% of them were already out of prison. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's bad.
Meanwhile, Democrats are working on legislation to curb the governor's pardoning power, and a Mississippi judge has halted the release of any other prisoners and ordered that those who have been released report in daily until all 208 pardons have been fully reviewed. And this is not the first time that opponents have been outraged by Barbour's pardons. I mean, he gave 4 of his 8 prior pardons to convicted murderers, all of whom were participants in the trustee program, which employed convicts to actually work in the governor's mansion, which is an interesting program, certainly. But this is just, I can't help but think if this had been a Democratic governor, you would have conservative media and conservative politicians saying the Democrats don't care about safety, the Democrats don't care about punishment and about fair punishment and consequences. They just don't care.
So what is his motivation for doing this?
What is his motivation for doing this? Well, according to what he said, my decision about clemency was based upon the recommendation of the parole board in more than 90% of the cases. The 26 people released from custody due to clemency is just slightly more than 0.1% of those incarcerated. And he's basically saying that 13 of those who were pardoned were saddling the state with huge medical bills. And that was picked apart by local media, and basically it turns out that those medical bills were completely negligible. And he also said some of them he chose to pardon rather than grant clemency to allow them to find gainful employment or acquire professional licenses as well as hunt and vote. So that's his explanation. Now, the reality is that this restored a lot of violent criminals' access to guns. And I don't want to make it seem like all of these cases were absurd. There is one case where someone was serving I don't know how many years for having a pound of marijuana. And that's a perfect case of where we have over-incarceration, where it just absolutely doesn't make any sense. And that is filling up a prison with a nonviolent offender. That one does make sense. But a lot of these, giving violent criminals access to guns, it's very hard for me to get behind that. And I can't help but think that if it had been a Democratic governor, people would be completely outraged.
Well, I mean, people are outraged now.
Well, people compare it to Clinton. That's how they're defending it. People are saying, well, Bill Clinton pardoned people and he pardoned Mark Rich and so on and so forth. But I think we need to really be comparing apples to apples, which is, for example, Mike Huckabee, when he was governor of Arkansas, granted clemency to Maurice Clemens, who went on to murder 4 police officers as they sat in a coffee shop in Lakewood, Washington before their shift. That seems like a more apples-to-apples comparison than Bill Clinton pardoning Mark Rich, which I understand is much more popular for detractors of for the detractors here.
Right. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if if some of these convicts go on to murder again or rape again, I'm sure there will be some blowback.
Will there, or will people just have forgotten?
No, I mean, I'm pretty certain that there are a large number of people, especially in the state, who are going to keep a very close eye on this.